Yes, sir.
Students, yeah. So today's topic is inflammatory disorders of the larynx. So last two classes we have discussed about the anatomy and physiology and congenital lesions of the larynx. So today's topic is both acute and chronic inflammatory disorders of the larynx. So inflammation may be because of the infection or any allergic reaction to the larynx. So with infection or without any without infection also, it will cause the inflammatory lesions of the larynx or inflammatory disorders of the larynx. So it may be acute or chronic. So first we'll discuss about the classification of the inflammatory disorders. So it is classified into acute and chronic depending upon the duration of the symptoms. So if it is a and severity of the symptoms. So usually most of the acute infections, the symptoms are severe. In chronic infections are symptoms are mild, but the duration is longer in chronic infections and it is shorter duration in the acute infections. So coming to classification of acute and chronic infections of the larynx, in acute infection it may be simple laryngitis, acute simple laryngitis, acute epiglottitis. So in epiglottitis mainly the infection or inflammatory lesion is involving the only epiglottic region. So laryngotracheobronchitis. So here there is entire involvement of the upper and lower respiratory tract, laryngotracheobronchitis. So that means infection and inflammation of the larynx, trachea and the bronchi. So it is again viral and bacterial. And spasmodic croup. So croup means there is a cough and laryngeal edema. So laryngeal edema may be because of the infection or any allergic reaction to the larynx and laryngopharyngeal reflex disease. So that is LPRD, laryngopharyngeal reflex disease. In chronic infections, chronic laryngitis, tuberculosis, scleroma, candidiasis, and sarcoidosis. So this scleroma, candidiasis, and sarcoidosis are very rare. In scleroma, in rhinitis scleroma, it is caused by the Klebsiella rhinoscleromatis. There is extension of the this fibrotic inflammation into the larynx. So that is rarely you will see. First, it is involving the nose and then spreads to the larynx. Candidiasis and sarcoidosis also very rare in the larynx. So first we'll discuss about the acute infections. Acute infections are the larynx. So in acute infections again, acute simple laryngitis and epiglottitis. So these are the etiological agents for the acute laryngeal infections. So laryngeal infections, yeah, this is the causes for the laryngeal edema. So the edema may be because of the infections, retropharyngeal abscess, Quincy's peritonsillar abscess, and Ludwig's angina. That is a submental submanular abscess. If there is any surrounding inflammation, that will also will cause the edema of the larynx. Angioneurotic edema, that is allergic atopic reaction of the larynx, and Rinke's edema, so that is submucosal swelling of the true vocal cords. Thermal and the caustic ones, accidental ingestion of the any acids or alkalis also will cause the edema of the larynx. Trauma, mechanical trauma or accidental trauma, road traffic accident or intubation during the general anesthesia will intubate the patient, endotracheal intubation or endoscopy, simple endoscopy. While we are doing the examination of the larynx by using the endoscopes, either rigid or flexible laryngoscope, it will cause the injury to the larynx. Carcinoma of the larynx and pharynx and post irradiation. So suppose patient underwent treatment for the carcinoma of the larynx with the radiotherapy, then post irradiation will they will develop the edema of the larynx. Any systemic diseases like nephritis, heart failure, and myxedema and anasarca will also cause the laryngeal edema. So first coming to the acute simple laryngitis. So in acute infections, simple laryngitis, it may be due to the simple common cold. So any viral infection of the nose and nasopharynx, it may spread into the larynx. That is the viral infection, vocal abuse. So voice abuse or voice misuse continuous talking for the longer duration also will cause the mechanical trauma to the larynx, then it leads to the acute laryngitis. Let's see smoking and environmental pollution, gastroesophageal reflux disease, thermal or chemical burns due to the inhalation or ingestion, use of the asthma inhalers, laryngeal trauma, endotracheal intubation, and stress, physiological or psychological stress. So in clinical features, these patients, acute laryngitis patients, will present with the usually followed by the upper respiratory tract infection, and on history there is harshness of the voice, high pitched husky voice, dry cough that is usually we'll see in the night time. So while lying down, they'll have the dry irritating cough and sore throat that is worsened by the talking. Rarely we'll see the fever and generalized weakness of the patient. So laryngoscopy on examination, if we do the endoscopic examination of the larynx, red swollen supraglottic mucosa, mild erythema and swelling of the true vocal cords, and secretions in between the true vocal cords. So this is the flexible laryngoscopic picture of the patient with the acute laryngitis. So if you see the normal vocal cords, they are white in color. So here there is a congestion, mild congestion of the entire larynx and mucosa. This is the anterior commissure, posterior commissure. This is the true vocal cords. So you are unable to differentiate between the false vocal cords, true vocal cords. Entire mucosa is inflamed here. So the cause for this acute laryngitis, prevention is better than the cure. So you should advise the patient if they are having any habit of alcohol consumption or coal light exposure or smoking. So you should instruct the patient try to avoid the smoking and alcohol consumption and abuse absolute voice rest. So if they give the voice rest, there is an advantage. So while phonation or talking, all the time the vocal cords will meet in the midline, that is the adduction. So during every time on phonation, there is a mild mechanical trauma to the medial borders of the both the vocal cords. The harshness will worsen if you talk continuously. Like dextromethorphan and codeine. If they are having any gastroesophageal reflux disease like analgesics for pain, so if they are having the GERD, that is gastroesophageal reflux disease, you should give the antacids like pantoprazole. If they are having the pain, analgesics like all the symptomatic treatment. For cough, antitussives, which is having the dextromethorphan to the antitussives for the dry irritating cough. So if there is a bacterial infection, if you are suspecting any secondary bacterial infection, most of the time, infective laryngitis, most of the time it is due to the viral etiology. If you are suspecting any bacterial infection, then you should give the antibiotics, otherwise no need of any antibiotics. If there is severe edema, then you should go for the steroids, systemic steroids to relieve the laryngeal edema. So that is about the acute simple laryngitis. So usually it is caused by the Streptococcus pneumonia, bacterial infection, and most of the time viral. So secondary to the common cold or any other upper respiratory infection or voice abuse or voice misuse. So these are the causes for the acute laryngitis. So this is important topic for you, important 4 marks question in the final examination, acute epiglottitis. This is important, acute epiglottitis. So here there is only inflammation of the only epiglottids. So only supraglottic area, that is above the vocal cords. So in this picture you can see the epiglottitis growth, that is the laryngotracheobronchitis and the bronchiolitis. Only involvement of the lower respiratory system, that is the bronchiolitis. Here it is the epiglottitis. So synonym for the acute epiglottitis is the acute supraglottitis or supraglottic laryngitis. So synonyms are the acute supraglottitis. That means supraglottic structures. So clearly the disease will involve the one. So in that mainly epiglottis or epiglottic holes and the false vocal cords or supraglottic laryngitis. So it is defined as rapidly developing inflammation of the epiglottis and the adjacent tissues due to the bacterial infection may cause life-threatening airway obstruction. So because of sudden severe edema of the epiglottis, it will the edematous epiglottis will completely occlude the lumen of the laryngeal inlet. So then patient will have the sudden inspiratory stridor. So that is the usually it is caused by the Haemophilus influenza type B bacteria, Haemophilus influenza type B. And other organisms are the Streptococcus pyogenes, Streptococcus pneumonia, and the Staphylococcus aureus. These are the rare, but most commonly it is Haemophilus influenza type B. So these vary in the pediatric age group and the adults. So symptoms will usually you'll see this epiglottitis in the age group of 2 to 7 years that is caused by the Haemophilus influenza type B. So in children, it is a rapidly progressive disease and patient will present with the sudden respiratory distress because of the sudden epiglottic edema, because of the obstruction to the laryngeal inlet. So they'll have the respiratory symptom. More of they'll present with the respiratory symptoms. That is the breathing difficulty or stridor. Dysphagia and the drooling of saliva from the angle of the mouth. So that is seen in the adults. So dysphagia because of the inflammation of the epiglottis. While we are swallowing, the food particles will touch the epiglottis, then they'll pass into the hypopharynx, that is the pyriform fossa, then postcricoid region, then into the upper esophagus. So while swallowing, every time the food particles will touch the epiglottis. That's why the patients will have this severe odynophagia. Odynophagia is nothing but pain during swallowing, severe odynophagia and drooling of saliva. So the patients were unable to swallow the even their saliva also. So that much of severe pain they'll have. That's why there is a drooling of saliva from the angle of the mouth and severe sore throat or odynophagia and muffled voice. So there is a voice change, that is the muffled voice. Suppose any space occupying lesion in the oropharynx or hypopharynx, they are present with the muffled voice. Harshness of voice is different. If the vocal cords are involved, true vocal cords, then they'll have the harshness of voice. So as I already told, the symptoms are sudden in onset and rapid progression in children. And in adults, it is indolence course. That means the severity of the symptoms are less compared to the children's. So dysphagia and odynophagia and drooling of saliva mostly will see in the adults, but respiratory symptoms mostly will see in the children's. So on examination, you can examine the child or adult by depressing the tongue with the tongue depressor, direct examination, or contact laryngoscopic mirror. So you can't sometimes you can't see the Sorry for the interruption. So this indirect laryngoscopic examination also will precipitate the again sudden respiratory obstruction. That's why most of the time we need to arrange all the arrangements for the emergency intubation procedure. If there is any respiratory emergency, then you can examine the patient. So there is these children will have the anxious patients are appears as a anxious and leans forward with the support of the both the arms like this. So with the support for the respiration, they will extend the neck. So and in an attempt to maintain an open airway, so open mouth breathing and extension of the neck and support always they'll try to sit for the respiration. So this is called the tripod sign in patients with the acute epiglottitis. So for confirmation, you can do the flexible laryngoscopy. So this examination also is should carried out in the intensive care unit or operation theater with facilities of the intubation or tracheostomy. If there is need for the emergency respiratory restoration, post intubation direct laryngoscopy also you can do. So after doing the intubation, you can examine the patient by using the direct laryngoscopy under general anesthesia or plain X-ray soft tissues of the neck lateral view. So if you take the X-ray neck lateral view, you can see the enlarged epiglottis in the lateral view of the neck. And culture of the during intubation, culture from the epiglottis and blood culture. These cultures are positive for the most of the patients Haemophilus influenza. So there is a positive for the Haemophilus influenza. So this is the flexible laryngoscopic picture of a patient with the acute epiglottitis. There is a severe edema of the epiglottis, inflamed cherry red epiglottis, thickened epiglottic folds, and you can't see the true vocal cords because it is completely obscuring the view of the lower part of the larynx. Edematous arytenoid cartilages. So this is again direct laryngoscopic picture after intubation. You can see the tip of the epiglottis, severe edematous and swollen epiglottis. So X-ray neck lateral view, you can see this is the X-ray neck lateral view. This is the epiglottis, and these are the edematous aryepiglottic folds. So epiglottis will be enlarged and airway. So this is called the thumb sign. This will obscure the sign. So X-ray neck lateral view, thumb sign is important in the acute epiglottitis. Red arrow is the enlarged epiglottis and yellow arrow is the enlarged aryepiglottic folds. So treatment for these acute epiglottitis patients is you need to hospitalize the patient and careful monitoring of the patient for the respiratory symptoms, mainly saturations and respiratory distress. Hydration of the patient by giving the parenteral fluids, humidification, and oxygen tent therapy. You should give the oxygen inhalations to maintain the saturation. Secure the airway in acute stridor. So if the patient is already presenting with the severe stridor, immediately you should intubate the patient by using the endotracheal tube and support the patient with the mechanical ventilation till the swelling and inflammation subsides. So then you should start with the antibiotics. Usually IV ceftriaxone 100 mg per kg per day in two divided doses, both in pediatrics and adults. And hydrocortisone immediately for relief of the edema, you should give the hydrocortisone systemic steroid. Hydrocortisone 100 mg has static dose and followed by the 25 mg. So prevention of this acute epiglottitis by giving the Haemophilus influenza vaccine for all the children and household contacts of the patient with the epiglottitis. You can give the rifampicin prophylaxis 20 mg per kg per day. So that is maximum 600 mg per day for 4 days. So that is prevention by vaccine and also rifampicin. So next, second acute infection of the larynx is laryngotracheobronchitis, the LTB. The other name for this laryngotracheobronchitis is the CROUP, CROUP. So it is again viral and the bacterial. So bacterial laryngitis, this laryngotracheobronchitis is more severe compared to the viral. So in acute viral laryngotracheobronchitis, CROP, commonest infective cause for this stridor in the children. So this laryngotracheobronchitis is the commonest infective cause. So in congenital causes, laryngomalacia, this is the infective cause for the stridor in children. So mean age of the presentation is 18 months. So 1.5 year. So usually it is caused by the parainfluenza virus type 1, 2 and the 3. Other viruses are the influenza, respiratory syncytial virus and the rhinovirus and the measles virus. Clinical features, the symptoms are not like acute epiglottitis. There is gradual onset of the upper respiratory symptoms, that is hoarseness of the voice, biphasic stridor, mainly at the night, dry cough, so like barking of a seal, low-grade fever, and child prefers to lie down, but is restless. So the children are the restless. They'll prefer for the lying down. Dysphagia and the drooling of saliva are absent in the laryngotracheobronchitis. So you need to differentiate between the epiglottitis and the laryngotracheobronchitis. Here, the symptoms are gradual in onset and low-grade fever and dry cough, hoarseness of voice. There in epiglottitis, that is the muffled voice. Here, hoarseness of voice. The stridor in epiglottitis is inspiratory stridor. Here it is biphasic stridor. The stridor will present both during the inspiration and the expiration. That is called the biphasic stridor. So diagnosis by taking the X-ray neck lateral view or AP view. So you can see the steeple sign or pencil point sign. So there is a narrowing in the subglottic region that appears in the X-ray as a steeple sign. So church steeple sign or the pencil tip sign. So here, if you see this black shadow is the airway. So there is a narrowing in the subglottic region. Just below because of the mucosal edema, there is a narrowing in the subglottic region. This black shadow in the air column, here there is a sudden narrowing in the subglottic region. That is because of the subglottic edema. So that is called the pencil tip sign or the church steeple sign. So and there is a dilated hypopharynx, dilated laryngeal ventricle and the X-ray neck lateral view, narrowing of the subglottic larynx. So treatment is again, so these patients you need to hospitalize, notification and the mucolytic drugs, oxygen inhalations, hydration with the intravenous fluids, hydrocortisone, same like epiglottitis, 100 mg IV start followed by the 25 milligrams 8th hourly, and antibiotics and adrenaline nebulization. To relieve the subglottic edema, we should give the adrenaline nebulization, that is 1:1000. So if there is a severe stridor, then you should go for the tracheostomy or the intubation or the endotracheal intubation. So bacterial laryngotracheobronchitis, the other name for this laryngotracheobronchitis is pseudomembranous CROP. So more severe than the viral. The usual causative agent is Staphylococcus aureus. So there is a sloughing of the respiratory epithelium on examination or on bronchoscopic examination. Clinical features: harshness of voice, biphasic stridor, dry cough, high-grade fever, and the child supine but restless. So X-ray neck, AP view and lateral view, same like viral laryngotracheobronchitis. You can see the steeple sign. So treatment is same like a viral laryngotracheal bronchitis. So you need to give the antibiotics, oxygen inhalations. If there is a severe, then you should go for the intubation or tracheostomy. Subglottic laryngitis. Here there is only involvement of the subglottic region. The exact cause for this is not known. Maybe influenza viral infection like laryngotracheal bronchitis. So here the trachea and bronchi will be normal, but only the subglottic region in the larynx there is a severe edema. So usually you'll see in the children below 3 years of age, rapid onset of the biphasic stridor and barking cough and low grade fever. So again, because of the subglottic region involvement in this disease also, you can see the in X-ray neck lateral and abdominal, you can see the steeple sign. So this slide is important. You can see the differences between the epiglottitis, viral group, bacterial group, and the spasmodic group and the retropharyngeal abscess. RP is the retropharyngeal abscess. So the age group is important. Usually in the 1 to 3 years in the laryngotracheal bronchitis, but it is 2 to 7 years in the epiglottitis. So voice is muffled or normal voice in the epiglottitis, but harsh voice you'll see in all the group patients. And cough is absent in the epiglottitis, but barking seal-like cough will be there in the laryngotracheal bronchitis. Stridor is inspiratory stridor in the epiglottitis, biphasic stridor in the laryngotracheal bronchitis or group. Dysphagia and drooling are severe in the epiglottitis, and that is absent in this LTB and also in the retropharyngeal abscess. Retropharyngeal abscess, it is present. So again, in retropharyngeal abscess, inspiratory stridor will be there, and cough is absent. And fever, high fever will be there in the abscess and the epiglottitis, but it is low fever in the viral and this. In bacterial, again, it is more than 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Posture is, the patient posture is quiet and sitting posture in the epiglottitis. So restless and supine posture in the viral group and the bacterial group. And also in the retropharyngeal abscess. So these are the differences between the epiglottitis and the group. So that is about the acute infections of the larynx. Usually you'll see the acute laryngitis. So acute laryngitis, acute simple laryngitis or acute hypertrophic laryngitis, both are the etiology is same. Maybe infections or any allergy to the laryngeal mucosa or voice abuse, misuse, exposure to the pollutions, or these are the causes for the acute laryngitis. Then coming to the chronic laryngitis. So chronic non-specific infection of the larynx, that will cause the irreversible changes of the laryngeal mucosa. So etiology for chronic laryngitis, most commonly viral infection, repeated viral infections, vocal abuse or misuse, allergy, smoking, and exposure to the environmental pollutions, gastroesophageal reflux disease, thermal or chemical burn due to the inhalation, laryngeal trauma. So same like acute infection, but persistent of these etiological agents. Chronic hyperemic laryngitis. Here the patient will present with the hoarseness of voice for more than 3 weeks and dry cough, persistent cleaning of the throat or repeated hawking in the throat. So previous history of upper respiratory tract infection or gastroesophageal reflux disease. On laryngoscopic examination, you can see the hyperemic laryngeal mucosa with submucosal edema. So treatment is voice rest, medical steam inhalation, and systemic antibiotics. Avoidance of the alcohol and the tobacco consumption. So this is the flexible laryngoscopic picture of a patient with the chronic hyperemic laryngitis. You can see the uniform congestion of the entire vocal cords and the laryngeal mucosa. So second thing is the chronic hyperplastic. hyperplastic laryngitis. The symptoms are same, but on examination, so there is a congestion of the laryngeal mucosa, patches of the epithelial thickening. There is a hypertrophy of the epithelial cells in the vocal cords and the other parts of the larynx. So this is the chronic hyperplastic laryngitis. So again, this is hyperplastic. The congestion is less, but there is a hyperplasia of the laryngeal mucosa. Chronic laryngitis classification, there is a clean saucer classification for the chronic laryngitis. Grade 1 is simple squamous cell hyperplasia or keratosis. Grade 2 is hyperplasia plus atypia. In grade 3, there is a carcinoma in situ. So in grade 1 and grade 2, there is no further treatment. That is a simple medical treatment like absolute voice rest, systemic antibiotics, and the steam inhalations, analgesics, antihistamines, and decongestants are respirant is sufficient in grade 3, but after further treatment you need to give the grade 2 because it is carcinoma in situ. You should take a tissue for the histopathological examination. So if it confirms the carcinoma in situ, then you should go for the further treatment by giving the radiotherapy. So prevention of recurrent attacks of this chronic laryngitis, you should educate the patients by avoidance of the breathing polluted air. So try to avoid the exposure to the polluted air. Educate the patient avoidance of the tobacco inhalation or chewing of the tobacco and alcohol consumption and voice abuse or misuse. Avoid continuous throat cleaning and avoid whispering loudly. So that is for the preventions of the chronic laryngitis. So second chronic inflammation of the larynx is Reinke's edema. So there is a space just below the vocal cord epithelium that is called the Reinke's space. If there is any accumulation of the fluid in this space, that is called the Reinke's edema. Synonyms for the Reinke's edema are the bilateral diffuse polyposis, smoker's polyposis, polypoid carditis, polypoid degeneration of the vocal cords, and the localized hypertrophic laryngitis. So it accounts for the 10% of the benign lesions of the larynx. So this is the cross section of the vocal cord. You can see the epithelial layer. This is the Reinke's space, and this is the vocal ligament and the vocalis muscle. That is the internal part of the thyroarytenoid muscle. So here there is accumulation of the fluid in the Reinke's space. So etiology for the Reinke's edema is usually seen in the middle-aged males, commonly 30 to 50 years. Tobacco smoking, dry air exposure, dust exposure, and the alcohol consumption, laryngeal allergy, chronic infections in the sinuses or in the nose, sometimes idiopathic without any specific cause, the people will develop the Reinke's edema. So edema is limited to the superior surface of the vocal cords due to the dense fibrous attachment to conus elasticus on under surface of the vocal cords. So this edema is you will see in the superior surface of the vocal cords, not in the inferior surface. So symptoms are the hoarseness of voice because the vocal cords are disorganized structurally because of the edematous fluid in the true vocal cords. So and there is a hoarseness and diplophonia, that means double voice. So because of the asymmetry in the cord involvement. And stridor, if there is a severe stridor causing the laryngeal narrowing of the glottic space, then patient will present with the stridor. So in early cases, increased convexity of the medial cord margin, and late cases, pale watery bags of fluid on superior surface of the vocal cords, and that fluid will move during inspiration and expiration to and fro. So these are the different pictures of the Reinke's edema. So this is severe Reinke's edema. You can see almost including the lumen of the glottis. So here there is only one cord is involved. Here there is bilateral, both the cords are involved. Here it is mild variety of the Reinke's edema. So treatment is elimination of the causative factors, stop smoking and vocal cord stripping or decortication is the surgical treatment for the Reinke's edema. So here under microscope by using the cold instrument will give the incision in the superior part of the vocal cords. So then we'll suck the edematous fluid from the Reinke's space. Then we'll replace the superior epithelial surface of the vocal cords. So edematous fluid sucked out and edematous tissue is removed with the cup forceps. Then we'll replace the superior surface of the vocal cords. So along with the surgical treatment, you should advise the patient voice therapy before and after, 1 week before surgery and 3 weeks after surgery. So this is the vocal cord stripping surgery. From anterior to posterior, we should do the incision in the superior surface of the vocal cord stripping. So give the incision in the superior surface, then separate this superior layer, then suck the edematous fluid in the subepithelial layer, then remove the excess edematous tissue, then replacing the cord. So this is the picture before surgery and the after surgery. So pre-operative picture and the post-operative picture of the patient with the Reinke's edema. So then one more chronic infection of the larynx is laryngeal tuberculosis. Laryngeal tuberculosis. Nowadays it is rare. Almost it is secondary to the pulmonary tuberculosis. Most of the time it is secondary to the pulmonary tuberculosis. So the bacteria will carried by the two routes to the larynx, that is by the bronchogenic route or hematogenous route. So if the bronchogenic route, the sputum will carry the infection from the lower respiratory tract to the larynx. The contact of the larynx with the infected sputum containing the tubercular bacilli. So here the commonly involved part of the larynx is posterior part. So that is posterior commissure of the arytenoids, vocal cords, ventricular bands, and the epiglottis. So posterior commissure of the posterior commissure of the vocal cords, arytenoids, and ventricular bands are the false vocal cords. So stages of laryngeal tuberculosis, stage of exudation and hyperemia in the subepithelial layers. So next progression, there is a infiltration of the mononuclear round cells into the subepithelial space. In third stage, there is a formation of the tubercle. In fourth stage, there is a ulceration. So this tubercle will ulcerate shallow ulcers with undermined edges involving the arytenoids and the epiglottis. In final stage, there is a cicatrization. Ulcer healed by the fibrosis. Symptoms of this laryngeal tuberculosis are there is a history of pulmonary tuberculosis, weak voice followed by the hoarseness, cough with hemoptysis, throat pain, referred otalgia, and dysphagia or odynophagia. So on laryngoscopic examination, flexible or rigid laryngoscopic examination, you can see clearly involvement of the posterior part of the larynx. So impairment of the vocal cord adduction areas affected commonly are the interarytenoid area, posterior vocal cords, false vocal cords, and the epiglottis. Congestion of these areas with the surrounding pallor. There is a pseudoedema that is called the mammillated appearance of the interarytenoid area on the turban-shaped epiglottis. Turban-shaped epiglottis, shallow undermine the edges. Rarely you will see the vocal cord palsy and the pericarditis, but it is very rare nowadays, pericarditis and the laryngeal cartilage necrosis because of the tuberculosis. So the ulcers are the true vocal cords appear as a moth-eaten appearance of the ulcers. Moth-eaten ulcers appearance of the vocal cords and turban epiglottis, mammillated appearance of the interarytenoid area. So we'll confirm the diagnosis by doing the direct laryngoscopic examination and take the tissue for the histopathological examination and also sputum for acid fast bacilli examination. and chest X-ray POV to rule out the pulmonary tuberculosis. Treatment is anti-tuberculosis treatment for the 9 months. So this is one more disease which affects the chronic disease which affects the larynx, that is the laryngopharyngeal reflex disease, LPRD. Gastroesophageal reflex disease is different and the laryngopharyngeal reflex disease. So this is extension of this gastroesophageal reflex disease into the larynx. So here there is involvement of the larynx. This is also in this also you'll see the mostly the posterior part of the larynx. Involvement of the posterior part of the larynx. So the symptoms are the harshness of voice, persistent clearing of the throat, difficulty in swallowing of the food, breathing difficulties or choking episodes, cough every time after eating. There is an annoying cough, sticky sensation or lump in the throat, heartburn or indigestion. On laryngoscopic examination, there is erythema and swelling of the interarytenoid area, erythema and swelling of the arytenoids, interarytenoid area, posterior commissure mucosal hypertrophy and granuloma formation in the posterior commissure region and contact ulcer in the posterior glottic commissure. So this is the picture of a patient with the uh, this laryngopharyngeal reflex disease. We'll see the changes in entire area, but mostly in the posterior part of the larynx. So confirmation for this diagnosis is by the doing the 24 hours ambulatory pH monitoring. So that is for the gold standard diagnosis both for GERD and the LPRD. So in this test we'll have the two probes, distal probe and the proximal probe. Distal probe 5 centimeters above the lower esophageal sphincter and proximal probe 1 centimeters below the 1 centimeter above the upper esophageal sphincter. So in LPRD, acidic pH in the both the probes, both lower and the upper probes will see the acidic pH, but in GERD only in the lower probe. So heartburn and nocturnal reflex and decreased lower esophageal pH are the will see in the GERD, but in LPRD you will see the harshness of voice and dysphagia and also daytime reflex. So supine reflex is more common in the GERD, daytime reflex is more common in the LPRD. So the pH is low in the both the probes in the LPRD. So treatment is antacids both in the GERD and the LPRD. So that is the anti-reflex therapy. And also dietary modification of the patient. No eating or drinking within 3 hours before 3 hours to the bedtime. Avoid overeating or reclining right after meals. No fried foods, low fat diet. So avoid coffee, tea, chocolates, mints and the sodas. Avoid caffeine containing foods, beverages. Avoid alcoholic and avoid other foods which causing the reflux disease. Lifestyle modification are they elevate the head end of the bed by 4 to 6 inches. Avoid wearing tight fitting clothing or belts. Liquid antacids. In level 2 disease, you should give the pantoprazole. On level 3, fundoplication surgery. If the symptoms are severe, you should go for the surgical treatment. Otherwise, lifestyle modification for mild disease. For moderate disease, you should go for the antacids, that is the pantoprazole, for 6 months. This is about the laryngopharyngeal reflex disease.